Bring on the zombie takeout fest.
Hello and welcome to Zombie Takeout, the B-movie and cult movie show. I'm John.
And I'm Scotto.
And before we get started, Jen Miller was going to join us this week, but she has a cold and not much of a voice left, so she wasn't able to join us. But just want to say, get well soon, Jen. Wish she could have been here. And that brings us to this week's movie, which was originally suggested by Jen on my site, The Rec List, a site I was doing a couple of years ago. I asked her to write a post for Halloween recommending a horror film because that's kind of her thing, much more than mine. And she picked a movie from 2012 called Stitches. Of course, that brings us to the impromptu plot summary. Sponsored by clowns. They're not always funny.
And also brought to you by the Party Cookie, when you absolutely positively have to kill every last brain cell in the room, except no substitutes.
Pause. I just realized I completely skipped over feedback. We'll get to it at the end.
All right.
Continue.
Okay, so we begin with the clown, who's not particularly good at his job, but yet he has been initiated by the Brethren of Clowns.
Demonic clowns.
Demonic clowns. He goes to this party. He takes the cash up front. Now, normally you think when someone takes cash up front, that means they might run off, skip out, not complete their task. This one seems to take a level of devotion that is, ridiculous.
Yeah, quite. Probably one of the best clowns I've seen. I mean, I haven't seen a ton of clowns, but certainly most entertaining.
So, the kids, of course, are giving him a hard time. They play a little prank, but because the most irresponsible person in this film, that being the mother, for leaving a knife in the dishwasher face up.
Yeah.
Who the fuck does that?
And a room full of kids alone with that clown.
Right, and then that leaves the room full of kids alone in the room with that clown. Yes, she wins the award for worst parent of the year. The clown, of course, does not take a seltzer to the face. He takes a knife to the face.
Yeah.
It's, of course, it is a appropriate trauma levels of splatter.
This is some of the best and most entertaining, most clever, creative gore I have seen probably ever.
And the other brilliant thing about this film is that the violence that happens isn't just shaken off or oh well. There are some characters that just shake it off and say whatever. But it, of course, traumatizes this kid so much when they fast forward into the future. He's, of course, popping pills and scared of his own shadow and very leery about his birthday.
And the medication he's on, Hypnotil, I think it's called. It's the same medication that was used in not Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. The anti-nightmare medication.
Oh, like where the Dream Warriors or something,
One
where
of them.
where they went into
Well, it's supposedly supposed to stop the nightmares. It's a medication for that, I think, in the Elm Street movies. He's taking it for the trauma of seeing the clown die.
Very clever. But right, so yeah, he actually lives with this and deals with it in a very real and human way. And well, of course, the other kids have moved on and don't give a shit about it, and kind of make fun of him and kind of beat him around a little bit. But
and some more than others.
Yeah, and it is kind of like the same group of friends that grew up together. I mean, I had experienced something like this on a very smaller scale, but it's like the whole town kind of thing, together going up into school. So we see them in high school, and it is his birthday again, and his mother has to, of course, go out of town on his birthday.
There are some conveniences in the film.
Well, I mean, she explains she has to work, Oh well. But what do you think would happen when you leave a high school kid home alone on his birthday.
Have you seen a high school film?
Right. There's gonna be a party. Although maybe she thought he was too scared to have a party, which he
Mhm.
kind of was.
Yeah,
He had to be egged on by his
right,
friends
right.
to have this, and
Coerced and then fooled.
he does. And well, apparently, when he was younger, in between points of the film, he had stumbled onto the cult of the clowns that explained to him that a clown always comes back to finish his performance, which I kind of thought was bullshit.
Well, I think that was shortly after Stitches died.
Yeah,
He found his way into the graveyard, and he saw this procession of demonic clowns carrying the body into this mausoleum, and then he sneaks in, and there's this ceremony going on,
and he discovers that each clown has an egg. I'm not
which I
sure.
thought was a clever device.
Yeah.
It gives it a way to kill him,
Well,
which ultimately is it is.
I forgot what that's called when you have like a little it's
Oh,
not it would be I don't think
talisman.
it's yeah, I was gonna say I'm not sure if it's a talisman or not. Maybe it is. Um so each clown has that, and they introduce that device. Of course, you're kind of wondering throughout the early parts of the film if he's just nuts, or if
Yeah.
he's just imagining this shit.
Mhm.
Until, of course, the clown really does come back. The invitation blows to his grave.
Is that how it got there? I was wondering.
The window was open and it blew out the window and it
Okay, I
landed on
missed
the
that part.
grave. And out comes the clown, and he is bent on tormenting each kid as they tormented him. So it's a very Nightmare on Elm Street
Mhm.
thing, each
And it's a
tormentor.
nice thing. It's nice to have a serial killer movie, a slasher film, basically, with a very short kill list. Like he's
Yeah,
only going after the kids who were at that party.
right.
Everybody else he kind of torments other people, but he doesn't kill anybody else.
Right. It is just the ones that gave him shit at that party 6 years earlier. And I guess we could say hilarity ensues.
Mhm. And the film opens up. First we see this extreme close up on the going over the egg, which was interesting because I
Oh,
couldn't
that's
figure
right.
out what
That's
it
where
is.
the egg was introduced. I
Yeah.
forgot.
And then it pulls out, and you see the egg, and he pulls back a little bit further, and it's Stitches sleeping with a woman, having sex with a woman. She's looking at the egg, and he's in full costume. He's dressed
Yes.
as a clown. And there's nothing funny about clown porn.
Are you sure there's nothing funny about clown porn?
So yeah, I just I didn't need to see him having sex in the clown costume. And I'm not anti-clown. I'm not phobic of clowns. Needless to say, if you're chorophobic of if you're phobic of clowns, avoid this movie. Um,
Yeah.
I'm an odd case where I don't particularly like them or dislike them. I'm really ambivalent about clowns.
Well, I fear that I'm going to see something that's not funny is pretty much my phobia.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
When
well,
I see
yeah,
clown.
I don't care one way or the other about clowns, so I'm kind of odd in that sense.
I'm
Um,
not worried about a dude in makeup and a red nose who's gonna come and
right,
kill
yeah.
me or
Um,
stomp on me with his large feet.
but the movie doesn't waste any time because within the first 10 minutes he's dead.
Yes,
You know,
I think they go. This is a very well paced movie
mhm.
because you have like the visions that provide a lot of splatter too in the
Right, right.
meantime.
There's the first vision that Tom is the main kid has when he gets when he's older and we see him in high school is it puts trauma to shame.
Yes,
Trauma
yes, it
wouldn't hasn't
does.
even gone there.
Right.
And I say that as a huge trauma fan, but they topped trauma.
It was yeah, that was impressive.
And I don't want to spoil it because I just
Right, right.
as
You
someone
can't.
who has seen much transgressive gore, my jaw was open. I almost applauded the movie. I would have liked to have seen more of the demonic clowns.
Right.
I
And
feel like they were a little underused.
yeah, definitely. They serve a little bit exposition, but that's about it.
Oh, just rolling back a little bit, we before that scene in the high school, when Stitches is killed, he falls face down onto the knife, and we see him actually pulling the knife out very slowly and
Yes.
just splattering young Tom's head with blood. The
Why
gore in this movie is a thing to behold.
why would you pull the knife if you had a knife lodged
Yeah,
into
that's
your
true.
head?
That's true. Just leave it in there and go to the hospital if you're conscious enough to
Exactly,
do so.
exactly.
Yeah.
Stay very still. Go to the hospital and maybe, just maybe, they could do something for you.
Yeah. Hopefully. I mean, you lose the eye, but you'll probably survive.
Right.
Um,
Taking the knife out uncorks.
yeah, a
And
whole
as
geyser.
what happened in that movie.
Yeah. And I have to say, you like you said, it's beautifully paced because there are only a handful of kills.
Yeah,
I think there are 7 kids. I think there's only 5 kills in the movie, 4 or 5 kills. And they don't. It never gets boring. They ratchet up the suspense
right.
throughout all of this dead space. What would normally in a lesser film be dead space. It's
You
brilliant.
actually get to know the characters, which is really strange for a
Mhm.
movie like this too.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, it's quite a contrast to what we did last week, where it was like this weird, as you nailed it last week, an improv
yeah, yeah.
course last
Right.
week about character development. Whereas this, they really wanted you to know the relationships these kids had
Mhm.
as young kids and then as young adults.
And there's this great scene where they're playing basketball in gym class, and it's the classic high school movie basketball scene, but they nail it perfectly.
Right.
And there's this principal in the movie, and he's in one scene, but I have to point out his comb over
Well, yeah.
because it's only this part right in the middle
It's just
that's
one little
combed over.
stripe.
It's like Zorg without the plastic thing, or like what goes through Zorg's plastic helmet, fifth element. Got a kick out of that. I couldn't figure out where I recognized Tommy Knight, who plays Tom, until about a half hour into the movie. He was Luke on the Sarah Jane Adventures,
Yeah,
which
I thought he'd look familiar too.
it was a Doctor Who spinoff that was on for a couple of years until
He's
Elizabeth
apparently
Sladen passed
on
away.
Victoria also,
Oh,
I
okay,
think.
okay.
Yeah.
I only saw him on Sarah Jane Adventures, and that was a decade ago, so it took me a while to recognize him. Um, and there's one line this there is some very cheesy humor, but it works. Um, there's the bully girl Sarah has a line. You invited everyone to come on my face because she puts the invitation. What was the setup for that? I don't have my notes.
uh,
It's about the invitation.
yeah.
And something it was on a picture. I forget exactly what the setup was, but yeah, it's a very cheesy joke, but they pulled it off nicely. Speaking of Sarah and her boyfriend Paul, I really couldn't wait for them to die.
They really did build that up well, didn't they? Like
Mhm.
they're assholes and they just fucking. Although it was kind of cool that she put up such a good fight.
Yeah, and Dan, Kate's boyfriend, the pretentious guitarist, who kept going on about how he was soloing while playing a kick drum. Couldn't wait for him to die either. Again, really nicely set up. Now the only really my only criticism of the film has to do with how they handled one of the characters, Bulger, who I loved up until he was about to die, because they set him up as a good kind of he's the sassy fat gay guy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But he's a good you make him likable up until the end when he goes off to get this um first aid kit because Tom had been injured. Because Paul, Sarah's boyfriend, came in dressed as a clown and scared the shit out of him. And he goes into this room to get this first aid kit, and he sees these canned strawberries, and he chooses to eat the canned strawberries instead of fetching the first aid kit.
Yeah, they
It
had
didn't.
a.
It didn't fit the character. They suddenly made him this disgusting glutton when he hadn't been throughout the movie, and they didn't need to set up the morality tale.
They
They
had
were
this very
killed.
strange thing about weight in this film, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because you had the one girl who had been, I guess, at like a fat farm
Yeah,
or
she'd been
whatever,
heavy
that
and she'd
came
lost
back.
weight and she came back and she was super hot. And that's a kind of a trope in high school movies. So I just wrote that off.
You had the other girl
Yeah.
who he
Or,
was the wingman
right,
to,
yeah.
and yeah,
And
but
Stitches makes a crack about her weight.
yeah, and then you have the guy who can't lay off the canned strawberries.
And that was not a thing until he was about to die.
Yeah.
Like they had to crowbar in this morality tale, which was unnecessary for once unnecessary in a horror film because it was already established that they're dying because they were at the party as kids.
But I guess it was setting up the way he was killed,
Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
which I don't know. Maybe was there a different way of doing that? I don't know.
I kind of liked how he was killed. It was very, again, another very clever kill.
That's true. But so if he doesn't do this, that doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense.
true, true. But just
So it
before
was really
that,
it was shoehorning it in
right, and
to get
just
that
before that,
kill.
Bulger had gone off on Sarah and Paul, and you loved him at that point, and then he does this seamlessly, it's pointless, senselessly selfish and gluttonous thing just to set up his death. Um, Also loved the gore when he killed Paul. His head just got bigger and bigger. He, put a pump in his head, and that was great. Oh, when Stitches rose from the grave, very Nosferatu.
Yeah.
He kind of comes up from a flat position to standing.
I
Love
wish
that.
they had done a little bit more of the Harpo Marx mirror bit. They only did
Yeah.
like a second of it with the other clown was dressed up.
Well,
I
yeah.
wish I mean they considering he dies shortly after that
Mm.
anyway.
Right. Yeah. They didn't need to keep it a secret. Paul, the bully, walks past this open door. Stitches walks past at the same time, and Paul's dressed as a clown still.
Right.
And Stitches walks past exactly the same time, and I fully expected him to step. And Paul does step back and look in the room. I was expecting Stitches to come back and mirror him.
Right. They should have done just a little bit more of that,
Yeah, yeah.
but who isn't a fan of that Harpo Marx mirror bit
Right,
gag?
of course, of course. There's a great bit with Sarah and Kate. They're arguing and insulting each other, and or Kate just gets fed up and headbutts her and walks away. Loved that.
Glasgow kiss.
And there's an odd scene with the song "I Just Died in Your Arms
That's
Tonight."
just what I was coming to next. What year is this supposed to be set in?
I assumed it was current or 2012. That's when it was released. The song was from like the mid 80s. I think it was like 86, 87 because I was
87, yeah.
87 because I was playing guitar at that time. And
I
I
had
like the
that
song.
album, definitely.
It's a good song. I like the song. But in the movie, it's this like party anthem that just like stops the party and everybody
Right.
puts their drinks up and it just becomes a whole thing for "I Just Died in Your Arms Tonight."
I gotta say, I know we're kind of old and stuff now. The kids know songs that you would not expect them to know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that a millennial would know the song.
I don't
I'm
know.
sure it still gets played.
I'd still be surprised, but I'm just saying they know older songs that we would not expect
Well, yeah,
them to
sure.
know.
I wouldn't be surprised that they know the song. It's just an odd. It wasn't even a party anthem in the '80s when it was popular.
Very true. Very true.
It just seemed an odd choice, and it was just to match the scene where Baldur gets killed.
Yeah.
Because he's, Stitches is like holding him like this
In
when
his
he
arms,
dies.
yeah.
It was just for that gag. But it was nice to hear the song.
One of my favorite scenes, the trike chase.
Yes, the slow motion bike chase. Yeah, Stitches is on a tricycle, and Tom and Kate are on bicycles. The slow motion chases are always fun.
Him just I mean, everything about his chase, running like the clown and everything, and just all the motions that he's going through. Um, just a clown at a circus, chasing them in that style.
But just a bit before that, just a couple of things. Sarah almost getting away and then suddenly dying with the umbrella through the eye was great.
Oh yeah,
because she almost got away. And when he killed the cat, probably the most brutal scene in the movie. There's these 5 other kids he's killing, but he's taking his cat by the tail and just bashing it against the wall and saying and counting down, saying how many lives do you have. And at one point, Tom puts a knife in Stitch's back, and he couldn't reach it. I loved that he couldn't reach the knife in his back.
I also like the subtlety of the locked gates and fences that they were trying to hop in to get into the cemetery. Like one of them climbs up, and then the other one just walks around, like, okay, and the other one just like climbing up and just opens the gate while they're climbing it.
And while they're in the cemetery, they're trying to hide from Stitches and kind of creep to the mausoleum to get his egg. And Tom gets the hiccups. I loved that because I had a stomach bug a few years ago that gave me the hiccups for 5 days. I despise the hiccups at this point, so I loved that was used as a device to almost get them caught.
Well, Tuesday had them for years.
Well, yeah, no, she had them she had one once in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a normal case of the hiccups, the constant hiccups for 5 days straight. It was worse than you think. Um,
And
and
the fact that the whole Lefty Lucy thing, the opening of jars, wasn't just a dumb, wasted scene in the
yeah,
middle of
yeah,
the
it
movie,
actually,
but actually comes
because
back at the end.
Bulger tells him, gives him a tip on how to open a jar because apparently he didn't know that.
Dumb kid, yeah.
Although Jen had told me tonight on Messenger that, and I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, that she learned that from this movie.
Oh wow.
So I learned that a long time ago. Granted, my father was a carpenter, so construction was kind of something I grew up around. But yeah, that was layered in early by Bulger giving Tom a tip on opening a jar, and it worked later in the film. And then I like that they set up the eggs early. It wasn't just this Deus
It's
Ex
the first
Machina
shot of
revealed
the
at the
film,
end. Yeah,
actually.
it wasn't just this random Deus Ex Machina way to kill him.
Yeah.
It was set up nicely. The way that they got saved, and I won't spoil it. I completely forgot about that character.
Well, right.
It worked perfectly. He just disappeared.
does.
He was out of sight, out of mind.
And it worked perfectly because it mirrored what happened at the party. Yeah, it was very nicely done.
And I really wouldn't have minded if that character died. I would happily replace,
Of course.
swap him for Bulger.
Yeah.
So it was, because he was kind of a blank slate. So it was really great to see him come back and save them.
Yeah.
And at the end, they bring back the groupie from the beginning with another clown.
Oh.
Which was a nice touch. I had to, hold them on. It was on Netflix, and I had to mouse over the beginning of the movie to see if it was the same woman. And there's kind of a nice smell sequel. They show Stitch's egg repaired.
Yeah.
So there might be.
Does that bring us to?
There's no sequels and remakes. Aside from that scene, there's no evidence of a sequel. At least that I could.
Yeah. I mean, it's been 6 years.
It's been 6 years, and it's done. It was very clever, and it was very well done. Let it go.
But I think one
and done.
There's room for a sequel here, not necessarily with Stitches himself, but as you pointed out, you get into the clown cult.
Oh, yeah, more of that clown cult, the demonic clowns. Yeah, there is room there. I would like that. That series could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
kind of an anthology.
It would be a very different movie. I think it would be sort of like the town against the cult kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. That could be good. They'd need an excuse to kill them because Stitches had the party.
Yeah.
You'd need an excuse for the clown cult to go after the town. But yeah, I'd love to see more of those clowns.
You get these kids together as adults.
Yeah, true. Yeah, maybe the kids go after the cult.
Yeah.
To finally take them down. There we go. There's the story. All right, so on the brains.
On the brains.
I got a docket for suddenly turning Bulger, my favorite character, into a disgusting glutton for no reason other than a needless excuse to kill him. But I loved everything else. I'm going 4.5.
This is an easy 5 brains for me. It's despite my own weight problems. But I mean, to actually get to know the characters, this is probably the best horror film I've seen.
Yeah, one of them.
In a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's if you like this sort of thing, if you like trauma,
if you like ridiculous gore, this movie does it better than Trauma. Just avoid it if you have a problem with clowns, but beyond that, yeah, definitely recommend it.
Yeah.
So what have we learned?
I thought I learned that everybody's happy.
And I learned a great cure for hiccups. All right.
I also learned a joke might not be funny the second time around. In my dealings, I've always thought it's hilarious.
Yeah, you like to just beat them to death. Yeah. And on to feedback, which I totally forgot at the top of the show. Bodo on Twitter, of course. He said, what do you think about LeBron James buying the Friday the 13th franchise?
Well, he's turned the Lakers into a horror story.
I didn't find any. I did a little research on it. I didn't see anything about him buying the franchise, but he is looking to produce a reboot of the series. It depends on what he's going to be doing in terms of producing.
And
Um,
basketball.
because you always
Sucking
said
at basketball.
the producer is the money man, but actually the producer hires the entire crew.
True.
Producer hires the director and the cinematographer and the casting director and the people whose creative decisions affect the movie.
The definition of producer can be many
Yes.
different things, depending.
If he's that person, if he's that kind of producer, I'm a little concerned because he's not in the industry.
Right.
If he's just throwing money at them to make more movies,
This
I'm
sounds
fine
like
with
a
that.
money man kind of guy.
You know, if he's just throwing money at them and they get somebody who can really bring it back to its roots at Camp Crystal Lake, I almost said meth. If he can just bring it back to its roots at Camp Crystal Lake, was Jason even in the first movie? I'm kind of inclined to think he wasn't.
I think he was, just not as much.
Okay, maybe he was just a smaller role. If they can go back to the roots and do something, you know, in the vein of the first one, I'm all for it. Bozo also said, have you all done Jingle All the Way? Seems right up your alley. We haven't done any Schwarzenegger movies. I'm sure. No, have we done Conan?
We've done
Conan.
We've done Last Action Hero.
Oh, Last Action Hero and Conan. Yeah, I totally forgot about
Conan. I
I'm
forget.
pretty sure we did Conan, and I totally forgot about Last Action Hero. It's got Phil Hartman. It's got some good people in it, but it seems a little mainstream for us.
Total Recall?
No, we have not done Total Recall. I know that.
Because I would think that would be one of.
Mm-hmm. But for this Christmas, I assume Bozo is mentioning it for a Christmas movie. After you have, after talking you down, or wearing you down, because
for years
you have vetoed this for years, I have finally gotten you to agree to review the Star Wars Holiday Special for our last film of the year.
You got mercy on our souls.
I may ask Roberto if he wants to come back for it, though I don't know if I want to make him watch it again. So that's going to be a Christmas episode. So now everything is lined up for the end of the year.
You have to watch it again. Oh, I wanted to ask, why wasn't Thomas invited for this one?
I thought about that, and Tom, if you're watching this, apologies. It did cross my mind, but there was a bit of a technical issue when Tom was on.
Oh, okay.
There's a bit of a sync issue. We actually had to re-record the intro, and I didn't want to risk that again. But yeah, Tom, if you're watching, definitely check out this movie. It's right up your alley.
Yeah, totally. That's what I was looking at.
I'll probably message him after we're done.
You gotta see this dude.
Yeah, I come to think of it. I definitely will send him a message on Facebook after we're done. All right, that's it for Stitches. Until next time, we'll be reviewing Silverado. Always remember, never forget, wherever you go in life,
there you are.